Hey everyone, this is Braden back for another Voiceflow tutorial video. In this video we are going to be going over how you can add logic, conditions, and variables into your Voiceflow projects. This can be a really fun one because these sorts of logic, variables, and conditions, they add really amazing sort of fidelity into your voice experiences. They make them more personalized and a lot more engaging. So this is going to be a really fun one, and I'm excited to just dive right in. But first, you can see we are back in the Voiceflow workspace. I've had a bunch of people reach out asking how they can actually get into this workspace, mainly on the Facebook community. I'll go into that at the end of the video as well. But if you'd like to get into this workspace, you can actually try out these projects and sample them for yourselves. I'm going to add a Google form link down below in the video description, and then from there you can check out the Facebook community, which again I'll show at the end of the video. You can actually get submit to be into this Voiceflow community workspace, and then you'll also get a link to download the project itself. But without further ado, let's just hop right in. So I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to call this Demo Project 2. Project 2. Make it Canadian and US English, and we're going to open it up. Okay, great. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to do this in sort of two steps. So the first step is we're going to create a variable, and I'm going to explain what that is in a couple seconds. We're then going to capture the user's name in that variable and say the name back to the user. So for example, it would go something like this. It'd go, just going to mute my pesky device here. Okay, great. You're going to say something like, hey, welcome to your skill. What is your name? That's what Alexa's going to say, and then the user's going to be like, my name is Braden. And then from there, it'll go, nice to meet you, Braden. So we're going to actually say the name back to the user. So that's what we're going to build first. Now, if you don't know what a variable is, you can think of it like a container. It is a way to take data from somewhere, store it in this container, and then be able to use that container in other places. So for example, it would be way too difficult for us to be able to memorize every single user's name. And so instead we want to ask them, what is your name? Store that in the name container, the name variable. And then from there, every time we want to say the user's name back to that particular user, we can just write the name container, and then whatever's stored in there will get said to the user. So let's do that now. We can go over to the third bar here. You can see this is the variables bar. Open this up and we can create the name variable. So I'm going to write name in here and hit enter. And there it is. So we've just created the container or the variable for name. Now what we want to do is we want to actually ask the user what their name is. So we're going to drag it to speak block, and we'll say, welcome to my skill. Oh, can't type today. What is your name? From there we're going to actually go into the logic section here, and we're going to drag out a capture block. Now the capture block allows us to capture a single response from the user and store that in a variable. So if we go in here, we can say select slot type. Slot type is just what kind of data is this, so you want to sort of specify it. So for example, if we were looking for an airport, or if we were looking at the name of a country, or you can see there a corporation, these sorts of things. It just makes it easier for Alexa and Google to be able to really accurately hear what the user said and capture it. And so we're going to use the name slot type. So you can see we have German first name slot type, Great Britain slot name, and I'm going to use US first name. And then we're going to go into the name variable here and capture that. And so now, when we are asking, welcome to my skill, what is your name? Alexa's listening. The user's going to say Braden or Brandon or Mike or whatever they're going to say, and Alexa's going to hear that because we've specified the slot type, and then it's going to capture into a variable. So now we want to say the name back to the user. So we're going to say, nice to meet you. And now if we want to use variables in our speak block, we can open up a parentheses here, and we can type in name. There it is. And we'll say, nice to meet you, name. So let's go ahead and test this out. So we'll go to our test bar here and say start test.
Welcome to my skill. What is your name?
Alex.
Nice to meet you, Alex.
So you can see there, because we have debug mode on, and I went over that in the last video, you can see what happened behind the scenes is we were capturing the name variable to Alex. And then we were saying the variable back to the user. So that is a super easy way to use variables. But now let's actually do something a little bit more complex. So what we're going to do in this next example here is we're still going to keep the variable we just used for name, but now we want to almost treat this like a quiz game. So we're going to ask the user, what color is the sky? Is it red or is it blue? Now, based off of their answer, we actually want to increase their score, just like a quiz. And then at the end of the quiz, if they got it right, we want to check to see, is the score 1 or is the score 0? In other words, did they get the previous question right? And based off of whether they got it right or wrong, we'll say a different answer. And so you can see this is a very basic example, but it's going to start to personalize our Alexa skill a little bit more and make it more engaging. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're going to say, I'm going to go back to my canvas here. And I say, nice to meet you, name. For the first question, is the sky red or blue? Okay, so I'm going to pull out a choice block here, and we're going to have the user say either red or blue. Red or blue. And we also might want to take some variations here. So we might say the sky is red, so we'll add some synonyms. Sky red. And then down here we'll say blue sky, and the sky is blue. Okay, great. So now we have our two different answers here. And now what we want to do is we're going to quickly add an else port here. So if the user doesn't say either red or blue, we'll tell them to narrow their choice down. So we'll say, please answer if the sky is red or blue. And so we'll lead them back into the choice. And so now what we want to do is we want to create our variable for score. So we're going to go back to the variables bar, and we're going to type in score, create that variable. Now we want to go to our logic bar, and we want to pull out the set block. Now what the set block allows us to do is it allows us to set the value of a variable without the user having to say anything. So for example, with this set block, we can go in, and if the user says the number 1 port, which is red, so the wrong answer, we want to set their score. So we'll set the score variable to let's just say we'll just say 0. Actually, no, let's say wrong. So we can set it to either numbers or we can set it to words. Now, of course, if we use numbers, we can do arithmetic or math with it. We can increase the score. You can't really do that with words. But for right now, for this example, we're just going to use words. And so I'm going to copy this block and paste it. And now, if the user gets it right, we're going to set the score variable to right. Great. Now, what we want to do is we want to go and pull an if block. And so now we're going to say if score is equal to right, then we are going to say congratulations, congrats, you win, congratulations, you win. And if they got it wrong, we're going to copy and paste that again. We're going to say, oops, you got it wrong. You got it wrong. Try again next time. Okay, so let's walk through the logic really quick here. And so we're going to welcome the user to the project and ask them what their name is. We're going to capture their name in a variable called name. We are then going to go, nice to meet you, name. For the first question, is the sky red or blue? Oh, I should say is the, to have a little bit of proper grammar. The user is then going to make a choice between red and blue. Based off of their answer, if they got it right, then they're going to take the number 2 path, and we're going to set their score to right. If they got it wrong, then we're going to go up here and we're going to set their score to wrong, and then we're going to check the value of the score variable. And if the value of score is equal to right, then it's going to go up here. sorry, it's going to go down here and say, congratulations, you win. And if not, it's going to go here and say, oops, you got it wrong. Try again next time. So let's actually try it out.
Welcome to my skill. What is your name?
Alex.
Nice to meet you, Alex. For the first question, is the sky red or blue?
Red.
Please answer if the sky is red or blue.
It heard rap. Red.
Oops, you got it wrong. Try again next time.
And there you go. So you can see all the different things that happen behind the scenes with Alexa here. So process choice block path 1, we set the score to wrong. We evaluated number 1 false, if block, else path, and then eventually, oops, you got it wrong. Try again next time. And so what we can actually do now is let's actually do a little bit more of a fully featured quiz. So, well, 2 questions. And so I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to change these to set score to 0 or set score to 1. And what this will allow us to do is ask another question. So I'm going to hold shift click and I'm going to delete these blocks. And now we're going to ask another question. We're going to say your score is, let's say your score is score. So we'll tell the user what their score is. Score is 1. Time for the next question. For the next question. What's a good question here? Something super obvious. We'll say, is Canada cold? At the time of filming, it is January in Canada and Toronto. So the answer is yes. Okay, cool. Is Canada cold? So now we're going to add a choice block here. And we're going to say, yes, of course, it's very chilly. We're going to add a couple different synonyms here. Okay, great. Now, if they say anything other than yes, and this is another way to use the choice block, where it's going to go down the else port, and we'll consider that wrong. So they might say maybe, well, that's wrong. They might say no, that's wrong. The only answer we'll accept as right is yes, or a synonym of yes. So now, we're going to want to have a set block here, and if they say the right answer, we're going to want to hit score. And now, we're going to want to do, we're going to set score equal to, and now this might be confusing for some folks, but we're going to set score is equal to score plus 1. So we're equaling it to the value of itself plus 1 more. And so that's how we're going to increase the score by 1. Now if they don't get it right, we're not going to even set them through a set block this time. And at the end here, we're going to not a speak block, I meant to do an if block. And now at the end of the quiz, so we're going to want to route everything into here. Now we're going to want to check the value of the score. Actually, you know what? No, let's not do that. Let's just tell the user what their score is, because we've already showed you how to do the if block. So I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm going to say your final score is score. Okay, cool. So we'll run through the changes we made really quick. So now we have changed our type of variable score to a number, which means we can do math with it. And so if they get it right, the score is set to 1. If they get it wrong, it's set to 0 off the bat. Then we're going to tell them what their score is, ask them another question. If they say yes, which is the correct answer here, we're going to increase their score by 1 by taking the score value and equaling it to itself plus 1 more. In other words, we're just adding 1. And then we're going to give the user their score again. So let's run through it.
Welcome to my skill. What is your name?
Alex.
Nice to meet you, Alex. For the first question, is the sky red or blue?
Blue.
Your score is 1. Time for the next question. Is Canada cold?
Yes.
Your final score is 2.
There we go. So you can see we have a fully functioning quiz with the variables for score and name. And with score, we're increasing it by 1 if they get it right. And if we wanted to, we could make a fully featured quiz. We could have if blocks that were checking the conditions of the score. Maybe at the end, if their score is 2, we say, congrats, you got a new high score. We could create a high score variable, and every time that there's a variable which is higher than all the other previous scores, we could set that to itself, and that now becomes the high score. You can do a lot of really, really fun things with logic. So I hope you all have a fantastic time trying it out. Now, I did say that this project will be in the link in the description, so you can go ahead, download it, and play around with it yourself and see the exact example I just made. Also, if you have any questions about Voiceflow's logic system, or really Voiceflow in general, or you just want to say hi, we have a super active Facebook community that's just called the Voiceflow community on Facebook. There's over 5,000 Voiceflow users in there right now, and so you can actually go and check it out here. You'll see we post videos all the time. You'll see users are asking questions. It's a great place to meet other Voiceflow users, get your questions answered, get help, find job opportunities. It's a really good place. So I definitely recommend you check out the Voiceflow community on Facebook. And again, I'll put a link to that in the description below. All right, that's it for this video. It was a bit of a longer one, but again, variables, logic, and conditions, also known as if blocks, they're super, super fun, and they add a lot to your voice app, so I want to make sure I went really in depth here. Great, so in the next couple of videos, we're going to be going over how you can make your voice apps even more engaging using flows and other sorts of knickknacks and features in Voiceflow. All right, cheers.